Today's episode is a big episode. With today's episode, we've hit 50 episodes of Earned and just hit the 10-year mark for helping to start Tribe. So I thought it'd be fun to reflect on the last 50 episodes and the last couple of years of Earned. We had CEOs, CMOs, and founders at brands like Ulta Beauty, Harvard University, North Face, Hollister, Olaplex, Aloe Yoga, ColourPop, Gymshark, Gucci. We had 5 of our companies get acquired. Tula, Supergoop, Youth to the People, Sweaty Betty, Ilia, Milk Makeup. Actually, that's 6, and all for hundreds of millions of dollars. 2 other of our companies have announced that they surpassed $100 million in revenue in Glow Recipe and Hero Cosmetics. And the show is growing. So our YouTube channel over the last 365 days is up almost 100% year over year. From April of last year to April of 2020, the downloads have grown by 4,782%. We did all this while switching from a in-person format to a virtual format. And so with that, I'd really like to thank everybody that contributed to this, whether it was the listeners and the guests, or our production crew, including Dan Weir, who helped us launch the show and ultimately guide the show. And then the biggest shout out of all to Taylor Maskett, who's my right hand in everything Earned related. And so as part of that, I also want to make a few announcements. So as you guys know, we joined forces with Creator IQ just a few months ago, maybe 5-6 months ago now. And so we're gonna make a slight name change. So it'll still be Earned, but it'll be by Creator IQ. We'll also be giving away $100 to 50 of our listeners. So follow for details of that. And then also, hopefully we'll explore some new formats this year. Maybe some shorter stuff, maybe a little bit higher frequency, we'll see. But thanks again for sharing the word and for being a part of the community we're trying to build. Excited for the next 50 episodes. And thanks again, guys. Keep the recommendations coming, and we'll try to keep working to make this thing better.
Influencers, inspiration, and Instagram. This is Earned by Tribe Dynamics. Here's Connor Begley.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Earned. I am pumped today. I have a good friend, good long-term friend, David Chung, on the show today. Welcome to the show, David.
Thank you. And it's really nice seeing you, Connor. And finally, we're doing this.
I know. I've been talking to you about it for months, and I finally got you on here. So I'm excited.
I'm excited too.
So for those that don't know David, David was the founder and CEO of Farmacy Beauty, which he just sold to Procter & Gamble. Prior to that, he was the founder of Englewood LABs, which he also sold off and did very well with. And then most recently was the founder of iLABS, which is an independent lab and, similar to Englewood Labs, production company for brands that does some really cool thing with up and coming, people that want to create their own brands, right? So we'll talk about that a little bit today. And then I think for, part of the reason that we're connected at Farmacy is Farmacy itself was one of the top performing brands we saw in the entire skincare category when it came to EMV and influencers. I think finishing 2021 in our top 10 brands in skincare. So congrats on all your success, David. It's obviously really impressive.
Thank you, Connor.
And David, I think at one point offered to exchange equity with my co-founder and I, and we should have done it because he sold his company for like 5 times as much as we sold our company for. So, but you live and you learn.
Yeah, I remember the conversation about 3-4 years ago, right?
Yeah, we screwed that one up. So let's, so obviously I know we talked a little bit about Englewood Labs, we talked about Farmacy Beauty, we talked about, iLABS a little bit, but I actually want to take a hop back before that. I think for a lot of people that listen to this podcast, their goal is to get to where you are today, right? Because it's obviously, a pretty impressive list of accomplishments. And I know you've always kind of fancied yourself as a brand builder. I know that's part of your history as well. But give me a little bit of the history for before Englewood Labs, what were you doing? How did you get into the beauty industry? And then what led you into kind of the last 15 or so years?
Well, I've always been a serial entrepreneur. My first company I started right out of school when I was 23. So I really never had an opportunity to work for anyone. I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing, but first was retail store, and it was when before the Blockbuster really existed. I video rentals and stuff. And then we continue doing different types of business. Did the fashion, I represented Emilio Pucci at one time when I was like 26 years old. And then, so my first business in the beauty is a retail store called Cosmetic World, which had 7 stores. It's a small high-end store. We carried about 40 different brands, mostly like La Prairie, Sicily, La Mer, Chanel, those brands, mainly in the West Coast. And that's where I got an idea that, why am I keep selling brands that I have no equity on? And I realized, what, I should have my own brand where I own the equity. So that's when the idea came about, and I started my first brand called 3Lab, 3Lab Skincare. I sold in my store for a while, and then people keep asking me, where is this brand sold other than Cosmetic World? So I felt that I needed brand credibility. So I launched in Saks Fifth Avenue. At the time, I think it was Debbie Waters there. And after we launched Saks Fifth Avenue, we moved out to Barney's and sold nationwide in Barney's and did extremely well. And what's interesting story about how I got into contract manufacturing in the lab was while I was launching a 3Lab or running a 3Lab brand, I was really, really frustrated with third-party contract manufacturers out there. And I wasn't as L'Oreal. I was a small guy running small batches and small runs, so always treating me like second-class citizens. And it was very, very difficult. And that's why I decided that, what, I think here in East Coast area, we really need some good contract manufacturing. And I could see there's so much demand for that kind of service. And then so I started Englewood LAB, and really all I did was gave them a great service. What I was missing when I was doing 3Lab, and it just grew. Obviously, I had no idea what I was getting into because there was a lot of work. I didn't know anything about manufacturing, and somebody tell me, "Oh, David, you need to go out and get a kettle." I said, "What the hell is kettle? Something to do with the cat?" like, and um, and and so that's how I started in 2005, and it just grew. And so I took company public in 2016, and then finally exited in 2018 to a Korean company in South Korea called Cosmeca Korea. And then I want to just focus on pharmacy because we launched pharmacy, as you know, in 2015 with Sephora together as great partnership. And and just wanted to brand. I didn't want to do manufacturing anymore because it was a lot of work. But again, I ran into the same problem running pharmacy. And after selling my manufacturing business, so all over again in 2020, I launched the iLABS about a little over 2 years ago, mainly focusing on research and development and R&D and innovation, as well as supporting indie beauty brands. So that's kind of my background before pharmacy.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's interesting. I remember when we got a tour of your lab, you were talking about some of the processes you were doing and, some of the things that you had integrated that normally you would bring to somebody else, right? But you had talked about turnaround time in terms, being able to go and test it and get the results back versus having to wait 2 weeks is a big deal, right? It speeds things up. I'm actually surprised that you haven't thought about going full vertical integration and doing manufacturing, brand, and going back to retail. Have you ever thought about doing that again, or is retail too hard?
Yeah, retail is hard. So when I was doing cosmetic work, I actually at one point I owned retail brand, Relab, and Ingo Lab at the same time, and running three vertically integrated business. It was great experience, absolutely no doubt. And but after doing three different types of business, and my passion was branding. I realized that I'm a good at building a brand from like zero to I don't know $50 million or $100 million. So I realized I had a talent for that, and I enjoyed it the most, to be honest. Uh, Manufacturing is a lot of work. I love challenges. I like to get things done. So, but at the end, I think I want to do more branding and help other people build brands. I love to do that. I think that's my passion today. But I don't think I want to go back to doing retail, anytime soon.
Yeah, I'm just, knowing you, I'm surprised that that hasn't happened yet. So on the topic of creating brands, you are launching some new brands, that we'll find out over time about. And we had talked about kind of doing that, helping you out, working with you on it a little bit. And, so when we met with you, it was my co-founder and I, right, John. And when we met, one of the things that you said that really stood out was that whenever you would talk to me, I would bring John into the picture, right? I would want him to be involved because we were business partners. And any time I'm spending, not on the business, I think should be kind of evenly split. And you thought that was really important. And so talk to me about, the last kind of 30 years. Obviously, you've had a lot of long-term relationships, whether it's in business or personal. What is it that caused you to kind of latch onto that as an important concept, this kind of long-term relationship and equal equity? Where have you seen that kind of benefit you over time?
Well, I think the relationship in any capacity is so critical in life and business, especially business. And people ask me like, hey David, how did you become successful in a lot of ways? I tell them, all along the way, I was so blessed and met great people, and I was surrounded by great people who really put me in the map. Of course, I worked hard. Did all the right things, but at the end of the day, it was the relationship and people that really helped me grow. And I think when I see you and John, it's two like, you know, Batman Robin, team where you guys really build a relationship, and that's how you guys are growing. And I think same way for me, I did not have partner. It was by myself. Sometimes a little bit lonely, but it was people. But even in Englewood LAB, the people introduced me to other people, build a relationship, and they're the ones gave me a purchase order of millions of dollars. And
Hmm.
really helped me grow. And branding too for pharmacy, having a team and creating a team who's very passionate and dedicated in having the relationship with this team really made the brand successful. I mean, I did some, but these are the people who really made the company successful.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I always think about is obviously as you get bigger, the decisions you make as the leader of a company become more important, but you also become a smaller and smaller percentage of the company, right? When you have two people, you're 50% of the company. When you have 10 people, you're 10%. When you have 100, you're 1%, right? Like your individual contributions, like you're not talking to the customers every day. You're not developing all the products. You're not doing all the branding. And so ultimately, your ability to kind of inspire, attract, work with, develop relationships with people ends up being really important, possibly the most important part, um, at least in my opinion. And so, yeah, and then also I think that people can be really short term in the way that they think about things. And it's like, how much stronger is a relationship that I have with my wife or with my business partner or whoever when like we've known each other and we've worked together for 10 years, right? We just know each other so well, strengths, weaknesses, good, bad. It's a superpower when you can do it. So
And your employees is they spend more time with me than sometimes with their wife or their husband because they're here all the time. And I guess most important is how do you really respect them and make them feel part of the family and part of the success, and at the end, and how to give back to those people. And I think that's the key. And I think I look back for all the business that I have done and why, one of the main reasons that it was successful, I think it's the reputation. It's all about
Mm-hmm.
reputation. And, I give lectures to my team here when we do town halls. I say, three important things in my company. It's not revenue, it's not profit, it's about reputation, reputation, and reputation. That's all I'm looking for from my people,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, in every capacity. Right? So people walking in from the lobby to all the way to when they leave, so just the reputation of how we do things in this company. And I tell them, once you do that, trust me, business will be there and money will come. So don't worry about the money. Don't worry about the revenue. It will just come naturally once you have that. And that's my philosophy, and that's been always been my approach to life, I guess.
Yeah, I think about that all the time in terms of, for me, it's like if you do things the right way, like if you try to really provide value to people and you try to really do your best work and you try to, represent yourself in the right way, et cetera, in the long run, that wins, right? Very meaningfully. I remember we very early on at Tribe, we had a brand who now is like a top five, top 10 skincare brand that we track. At the time, they were very small. It was a team of like three people. And, they signed up for our services and something happened. I don't know, miscommunication, something. And they got like a month or two in, and like, we need to cancel our contract and it's a contract and, whatever. And so my team was like, you know what? It's fine. Like, if they're unhappy, like, I don't want them to feel like they have to pay, right? It's not worth it. And that relationship will be worth a lot more to us over time, especially if they feel like we're going out of our way to do right by them. And it's now one of our larger clients, and one of the best performing brands in the industry. And it took them a year or two, but they eventually came back and started working with us again. And that time it went really well. They've been like really happy with us since then. So it's taking the long view on this stuff is super important. Especially, I like your focus on reputation specifically. So let's talk about pharmacy a little bit. So obviously, from a purely financial perspective, was, from at least what I understand, kind of the biggest success you've had so far. What was it? What was it about that brand in particular that you think caused it to do so well in such a short period of time? Like, what were the core kind of pieces of that?
I think there's many ingredients to that success in short period, and one of them is we at Englewood LAB. When I was running Englewood LAB, we really designed amazing formulations of the product, such as
Hmm.
green clean, and so all the formulas in the product was created in-house with my chemist, everyone. So we did create amazing products, and we didn't cut corners in any matters. Just use the best ingredients, best raw materials. Make sure it has efficacy, and that was one of them. And I think the other also was having a great retail partner like Sephora.
Hmm.
Uh, and we really created together teamwork. We walked into Sephora without any products. It was a piece of paper, and literally without any brand name. It was just a concept and idea, and we worked together, and the partnership did this work. And that's another ingredient that was an important ingredient for pharmacy success. And at the end, the team that I put together at the time was just amazing, and I've always been thankful for those people who put a lot of work and their talents into the brand with passion. So I think those three parts really made Brandon. And timing on clean beauty, we always believe that's the future, sustainability. At the time, the clean beauty was not as, how we talk about today. And that was the approach, farm to skin, farm to table, farm to skin type concept. and it was always about an ingredient and raw material story, an efficacy story on from the farm grown. So in the beginning was echinacea, then later was honey and different things. Um,
Yeah. Was there, in terms of signal on clean beauty specifically, because obviously that was a big part of it, is that something that you get to see on your manufacturing side to be like, oh, wow, everybody's starting to talk or buy this product, right? So you get kind of insight into what categories might be moving where. Is that something that came through kind of Englewood Labs and when you first observed it, or was it just something that you thought you were kind of betting on would be important?
I think it was a multi thing. We deal with a lot of ingredient companies, we call raw material vendors, and there's hundreds and thousands of raw materials vendors out there, and they constantly visiting us as their customer and introducing new technology, new ingredient that no one has ever seen before. And more we talk to these people, we see where the directions on ingredient store is going, and then obviously talking to the merchants in the retail, like Sephora, they talking to end user, and they
Hmm.
see what's selling in the store. And so, at the time, we all knew just from being in the industry and being so connected, whether it's from raw material supplier to contract manufacturing to branding, we saw that the future is the clean beauty,
Hmm.
sustainability. How do you create a packaging that's biodegradable, so good for the environment? And we knew that's going to be for the next 20, 30 years, and that's not going to go away. We think,
Hmm.
and it's going to continue to do it that way. So that, and we just got lucky and started early, and I think more and more I still believe that's the direction now.
Yeah. I mean, it seems to have become kind of the standard. And in a lot of ways, frankly, it's something as simple as the language. Just using the word clean. It's like, well, what is everything else? Like not clean? Like that can't be good. Like I don't want to put like not clean stuff on. That feels bad.
Yeah. So I know, and people talk about natural, then everything else. What's natural?
Well, let's talk about iLabs a little bit, right? So, obviously you came back, started iLabs because you couldn't get the manufacturing done that you wanted to get done for pharmacy. What is different about iLabs than, say, Englewood Labs? Like, what's different about your approach? Yeah, talk to me about that because I know you're bringing in independent chemists and kind of helping them to create their own brands. Talk to me about that a little bit.
Yeah. So after launching my own brands, I realized that um, success of brand, uh, one of the key ingredients is to have an amazing product, a
Hmm.
really, really good product. So as a contract manufacturer now, I really wanted to focus on R&D and innovation. That was key. And when I create a company logo, I put I in the front, and I stands for innovation.
Hmm.
So our legal entity is Innovation Labs, Inc. And so when people ask what is iLabs, and I say we're an R&D company, we're innovation in skincare and haircare, but we have people batching and filling and manufacturing, but the core of our business is innovation. And and I took that approach because I realized that was one of the things that brand needs to become successful. So I created a iLabs in South Korea, Seoul, where we have a chemist and looking for new raw materials, new ingredient stories, and they formulate in their own cultural way, thinking something outside the box. We just opened Japan. It was delayed due to COVID, but I left Japan now, coming live and also opening up an R&D center in Japan as well. And looking for what's interesting in Japan. What raw material is very hot.
Hmm.
What kind of packaging, what kind of formulation. So at the end, that was the core of iLabs. And then second thing that I wanted to put something in iLabs that I was not able to do in the lab was I remember when I was running Englewood LAB, we used to get a lot of emails from literally all over the world and some countries that I never heard before. And the questions that they had was, oh, I'm an influencer, I'm a movie star, or I want to start my own brand. What is your MOQ? How do I go about doing it? And we really disregard all those emails because we did not set up to cater to like 1,000 piece, 500 piece, because the minimum order quantity for Angola was 10,000 piece per SKU. So, uh, we usually brush them away by saying we have to order 100,000, so they don't come back to ask the same question again. Then I realized this is the future.
Mm,
There's so much demand for these people, these entrepreneurs around the world, whether you're China, KOLs, whoever it is, wants to start a brand, where do they go? And so I said, what, you got the supply and demand rule, and where's the supply? There is a demand here.
yeah.
And then I realized that iLAB should be the company and really support these brands and able to buy a small quantity as small as 100 piece and able to just start the engine going, just turn it on and just start something. So that was the concept. And of course, we deal with 150 brands today, big brands, you know, um, multi-billion dollar company as well, but we try to focus on these indie beauty brands and startups. So I think that's a lot of fun doing that.
Yeah. Does that end up being kind of a sizable chunk of revenue, or is it more about kind of some of them blow up and then you started working with them early? Like, how does that work? Is it more the contribution they make to the business, or is it more like what they represent, what they could become if they do well?
I think for us, um, dealing with smaller brands is obviously much more difficult than dealing with, let's say, Estee Lauder or L'Oreal of the world because they have no idea how things work. So
Hmm.
we have to kind of hold their hand because very small business, $10,000 order, we have to work equal to if somebody's giving us $10 million order.
Yep.
But what's the return? Obviously, we would probably have more higher gross margin because it's a smaller run. But more importantly, is that there's an opportunity that no one is doing this. So at some point, that it could scale up and become critical mass, and then we are able to generate good profit margin and good business. And some of them, like you said, I remember talking to Anastasia. She started like 48 pieces and 100 pieces when she beginning, and look the quantity that she's ordering now, and you could grow together. Literally, you could grow with a small brand and you and make you successful. So we are looking for something like that as well. But I think there is a niche that no one is really doing it. So I think there's an opportunity. And that's my always my philosophy currently in the business is do something that no one, there's a demand and no one is really doing it or doing it the right way, and
Hmm.
then you become successful. And I think the same way how you build your business too is that there was an opportunity that no one is really doing what you are doing, and you're one of those first companies that's done the influence tracking. And same thing, I think for me, iLabs is that kind of niche, and even Englewood LAB, no one was really doing the right way of country manufacturing. They didn't understand what service meant, you know. They didn't understand what quality meant. So I just gave them a service and quality and just grew.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think at times when people start companies, they start them because they want to see something exist in the world and they want it to be this way. And it's like honestly, the easiest way to start it is to kind of let the market be your guide, right? Like, I've been asked by, for whatever reason, several people that were like, "Hey, I really want to get into live shopping," right? And there's all these new companies that are doing live shopping, right? Which is like people, online selling actively. And the theory has always been, well, it's really big in China. So it will get big here, right? The US is just behind. It'll get there, it'll get there, it'll get there. And, I go into these apps and there's, 100 people or 50 people or like, and you compare that to TikTok or Instagram or these others. And it's like, this is clearly not what people want, right? They're, for whatever reason, I don't know why, but there is no demand here, right? And like inventing demand is just really tough unless you have something that's really breakthrough. So yeah, I'm aligned with that. It sounds so straightforward, but I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs don't get that, right? Like,
I just moved to Palm Beach, Florida, and I say there's so much demand for amazing sushi place, and there's no amazing sushi place here. And somebody needs to open an incredible sushi place here, and they're gonna become very successful.
it's like crazy, right? It's like, wait a minute, everybody I know wants this, and there isn't one. Let's do it. So one of the projects I think you're obviously most excited about, like you've said, brand building is really something that is your, the thing that you enjoy the most. So I know that you've got some brands in incubation, some you can talk about, some you can't talk about maybe. Where are you seeing kind of pockets of demand and like what kind of brands or spaces are you thinking about getting into today?
I think there's still tremendous opportunity, Connors. I know there's like hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands brands are born each year, but still, that's the future. And right now, I am incubating some brands, and one of the brands that I like to focus, which I would like to launch first half of next year, is a hair care brand.
Mm-hmm.
I'm working on, and it's similar in some ways, but it's about more interesting how we could focus on hair care. So I'm working on that. I'm also, helping other people start their own small brands, supporting them, mentoring them, and, and sometimes make a small investment in those brands as well. So, few things that keeps me busy.
What is it in hair care? Like where is there some kind of gaps there that you think exist?
Obviously, there's so much successful in hair care, like Olaplex and other brands that's out there. But I think for me, I think we are really focusing on the root of hair
Hmm.
and inside the root, and brand is called Well Rooted. And and taking a little bit more scientific approach to the hair care. Brand has not really launched yet, and so there's not much I could talk about it. But I think we want to try to position in that direction. Something like again, not too many people are doing it, so I think there's a demand there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think there's been a number of big breakouts. Briogeo has also done really well. K18 has grown very, very quickly, both because of innovative products, like you said, but also I think they've done really well on social. Okay, so let's do one kind of fun end of show question, right? So when John and I were meeting up with you, you had talked about starting a restaurant, and maybe you've already kind of revealed this, but you were talking about starting a restaurant in New York City, where you still spend some time in New York and grew up there. If you had to start a first restaurant, other than maybe the sushi restaurant in Florida, what would be the theme of your restaurant? What's the branding? What's the name? How far have you gotten on that front?
Yeah, somehow in my stuck in my brain is that someday my dream is to own a restaurant. I don't know why. I just with it for last 10 years, and now I want to make that happen. And so I guess I'm one of those personalities that's kind of like perfectionist, and when I see something beautiful, I really appreciate, such as like what it's furnitures, how things are done, and I'm all about person's experience. So I go to different restaurants or anything. For me, those are very very important. So even iLABS, we just talked about this last week. I told everyone when people walk into our lobby in our company, whether they're trying to sell you anything, sell your ingredients, sell your paper towels, whatever, you must treat them with amazing experience of coming into our company. We
Mm-hmm.
treat them like if they are the president of the United States. We show them like really. So those experience they come into is very plays very important role in my life. And so going back to the restaurant, my dream is to have this small restaurant. People come and have the incredible experience that is hard to see. And obviously the food, and I'm looking at more of a vegetarian, vegan, more that farm to table concept in that way. But I want to open where when they come in, they, I would have a small locker where they could put their cell phone in. When they come in, their name is already on the table, the
Mm,
counter, yeah, and you sit down, and we call it eating meditation. You sit
mm.
down, you really enjoy the food, and as you bite the food, you think about how this food was made and how it come about, and it's so deep thinking experience that I like to try. It's not like omakase style, but um, I don't know. It's just it's something that I would enjoy building something from
Yeah,
nothing.
no, it's fun. I think, and again, the little details end up mattering a lot on those kinds of things. I think, I don't know if you've ever read this book, but it sounds like a very similar philosophy to the way that you've approached things. So it's called The Winning Takes Care of Itself. And it's by Bill Walsh. So Bill Walsh was, the coach of the 49ers when they went on the crazy run in the 80s and, did very, very well. And he was just really like, he would have instructions all the way down to the way that they answered the phones, right? Like, how do you answer the phone? This is what you say. This is, like every single person in the entire organization, he wrote out very, very detailed, like, this is how this job is done. And his theory was, if we just all do our jobs and we just all do what we're supposed to do, the winning will take care of itself. I think it's very similar to what you said about, like, if we just have a good reputation, create really good products, do really good customer service, the money will take care of itself. Like, that's not the hard part, right? And so, yeah, this is really cool. It just reminds me a lot of that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you that, and even the restaurant, you just with this incredible experience, and trust me, I just feel people gonna appreciate that,
Mm-hmm.
and there are people out there who will appreciate it, and business will just settle. You might have to wait 1 year to to make a reservation, but because you're my friend, you get the prime, no reservation needed.
There you go. And it's funny, like the little names on the table thing, like, doesn't actually cost that much money or that much time, but they end up adding up to a lot, right? So, well, I really appreciate you taking out the time today, David. I know I had a really good time. I hope you enjoyed it. I know people are going to learn a lot from it. And unfortunately, they haven't had the benefit of having a bunch of these conversations with you and getting to kind of absorb it over time. But appreciate you sharing what you've learned, and congrats again on everything, as always.
But thank you, Connor, and thank you for inviting me to your show. And I'm looking forward to see you soon.
Yes, for sure. I'll see you in New York soon, or maybe in WWD. I'll see you there.
Okay, see
Bye,
you there.
David.
Thank you.
Hit subscribe now. Earned by Tribe Dynamics. Tribe Dynamics unlocks your social media influencer community. Our platform not only tracks and measures your best influencer relationships, but discovers new influencers to grow your business through earned media. Get started with a demo today at tribedynamics.com. tribedynamics.com.